Hello. What does it mean to think like a historian? Well, the book Thinking Like a Historian helps to answer this question. The book is intended to help social studies teachers design their lesson plans, but I think that the major concepts and illustrations in the book will be helpful to you as you do your work for this class. The book discusses 5 categories of inquiry that break down what it is historians do when they analyze events, people, patterns, and ideas and put them into their historical context. Those categories are cause and effect, change and continuity, turning points, using the past, and through their eyes. The categories of inquiry and their corresponding questions help you analyze history the way a historian does. Notice the framework around the diagram includes larger questions that are answered by taking the time to think about an event, person, pattern, or idea through these lenses of inquiry. There is a copy of this illustration and the next illustration in the module Thinking Like a Historian. Each of the 5 categories of inquiry have corresponding questions that help you get at the substance of the event, person, pattern, or idea that you are studying. Cause and effect includes the questions of what were the causes of an event, what were the effects, who or what made change happen, who supported change, who did not support change, which effects were intended, which effects were accidental, and how did events affect people's lives, community, and the world. The questions for change and continuity include what has changed, what has remained the same, who has benefited from this change, who has not benefited, and why. Notice that there is a difference between cause and effect and change and continuity. Cause and effect focuses on what caused change and the impact of that change at the time period that the event occurred, or the person lived, or the idea developed. Change and continuity identifies patterns and similarities across time periods in order to understand what has remained the same. It also asks what changed and why. It also asks you to look at the long-term impact of the change or lack of change, whereas cause and effect looks for the more immediate effects of change. The questions under turning points ask to identify events or people that had such a powerful influence on society and culture that they changed it forever. In most cases, they created new trends, new belief systems, new political and economic relationships, and new ways of living. An example of this would be European exploration, the American Revolution, the Civil War, and other such events. The people living in North America were changed forever after these events. Using the past considers how the past has influenced the world you live in today. It also asks questions that help you consider what can be learned from the past. Finally, the questions under Through Their Eyes is asking you to put yourself in the shoes of someone from a different time period. The questions are asking you to step out of your 21st century mindset and try to understand how people in another time period thought. Once you understand how they thought, you can better understand why they did the things they did. For example, we look back today and have the benefit of history to know the evils of slavery. However, if you took a time machine back to the early 19th century, or you studied 19th century society and economics, you begin to understand why plantation owners and even poor whites in the South supported slavery. You can't judge the past by present-day standards. You can only learn from the past to correct the mistakes and change the present. You will be asked to use these 5 categories of inquiry and their corresponding questions in your assignments for this class. By taking an event, person, pattern, or idea and answering the questions that go with each category of inquiry, you are creating historical context. According to the book Thinking Like a Historian, historical context refers to the broad developments as well as specific people, events, and patterns that preceded, overlapped, and in some cases followed the topic of study. It is not possible to make sense of any historical topic unless we consider it within its historical context. In other words, the historical context is the stage on which an event occurred, a person lived, a pattern developed, or an idea sprang to life. Again, it is imperative that you understand how to use these 5 categories of inquiry and their questions because they will help you analyze an event and put it in its proper historical context. This will help you achieve proficiency in this course. And of course, when you do this, you begin to think like a historian. You can use these skills throughout your life because they will help you become a critical thinker. When you watch the news, remember that there is a whole historical background to whatever is being discussed that is not shared with you because of time constraints. So if you start thinking like a historian, then you can dig deeper into the root causes of something like the development of ISIS or some other major current event. In Blackboard, there is a folder called Thinking Like a Historian that goes through this information in more detail. Well, actually, it's a module, not a folder. Please take the time to go through the module and understand the contents of that module. And if you have questions, please let me know as soon as possible. Thank you.